Welcome back to Microsoft Build Live 2019. We want your questions, so use the hashtag MSBuild, or you can use aka.ms Microsoft Build Live because it's all about what you have to ask us. Coming up, we'll be live streaming breakout sessions like Inside Azure Data Center Architecture with none other than Mark Russinovich and how to bring your VMware applications to Azure with Marcus Hain. But first, tips and tricks with Azure Machine Learning Service with my good friend Chris Lauren. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, Seth?
So we hang out all the time,
Absolutely.
talk about machine learning, but there's a lot to talk about when it comes to machine learning. So we want to make sure that people get their questions in. But how can people orient themselves or even get started with machine learning on Azure? There's a lot of stuff that we have, right?
Yeah, there absolutely is. The easiest way to get started with machine learning and AI, all the things in Azure, is starting with our cognitive services. And the easiest way to think about those is there are pre-trained models available in the cloud via a REST API. So you can just say upload an image or upload some text to an API and get a high-quality response. However, there's times that you need to train your own custom model to do a very specific task for your business.
Got it.
And so you can use Azure Machine Learning to train a machine learning model and deploy it either in the cloud or on the edge. And so to get started with that, you can use any data science tool that you'd like Visual Studio Code or Jupyter Notebooks. And you can use any machine learning framework that you would like in Azure as well. You can use TensorFlow, you can use PyTorch, scikit-learn, etc. And so I'm going to talk to you about a couple of ways to get started quickly and some tips to break into machine learning if you haven't started yet.
Got it.
And be productive if you are a professional data scientist as well.
Awesome. So we have a large number of things. If you're just getting started, we have services that you can just call, all the way down to your professional data scientist that's doing a lot of data science work. You can do it all in Azure Machine Learning.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start out with Azure Machine Learning, because like when you hear it, everyone, it's like, is it this, is it that, is it the cognitive services, is it something else? And you're going to give us some tips and tricks on how to actually get started. So if I'm a noob, like let's just say I'm me and I'm getting started with Azure Machine Learning, what would be the first thing that we should look at, do you think?
You know, for most people who are just getting started with machine learning, there's two things that they really need to think about. One is being super productive and kind of simplifying the process of machine learning, whether it's training their machine learning models or managing those models in the cloud, and kind of operationalize them at scale to make sure that when you've trained a model that you like, you can deploy it and quickly scale it up to be able to support like web scale traffic or ratchet it down to control your costs. And we simplify that process end to end.
Fantastic.
But a lot of people that I've been talking to here at Build and in the hallways and stuff, it's pretty awesome. But a lot of people are just getting started with machine learning, right? So the first tip of the day is use automated machine learning to get the most value out of your data and try and train your first model. So we've integrated some capabilities into the Azure portal now. You can log into your Azure Machine Learning workspace and upload a data set, specify the task you want to achieve, like classification or regression, and then you can click a button and you can profile your data, get a quick understanding of it if you'd like to, but you don't even have to do that. You can simply click go, and it'll iterate over a bunch of different algorithms and hyperparameters. And I know that you enjoy playing with all that stuff.
I sure do. Now,
all night long.
This is the thing I like about this the most, and if I'm understanding this correctly, it's basically point your data at automated machine learning.
Yep.
Tell it what you want it to learn, because usually the way I think about it is there's a couple of columns, and then one of the columns is the target column that we want to learn. You point it, and then it's just going to do its thing. Is it just going to like rack up my Azure bill, though? Is it just doing all of the algorithms like that it wants to do? Okay.
No, absolutely not. There's a bunch of ways you can control your costs, but the easiest way to think about this is that normally you'd have a human that you're paying, a professional data scientist, that'll try a bunch of times, a bunch of different algorithms and hyperparameters, and they'll try this, and you can ask them, hey, when are you going to be done with that? When am I going to have a model I can deploy? And usually they say, I don't know. I'm going to try things until I get a good quality.
That's right.
And so with the automated machine learning, it's going to try a bunch of things in parallel by scaling out in Azure. And then once it has a high-quality model, then it'll stop. Now, you can even tell it, hey, don't try more than 20 things at a time, for example. And if I get a good quality, then just stop there. And it's great. So you can control your costs.
Is it Now, is it just like doing a ginormous for loop over all the available models? And what kind of models is it actually running through?
No, it'll intelligently sweep over and,
Okay.
and optimize based on what it's learned iteratively, and then kind of explore the search space with different algorithms and hyperparameters. And so it'll continuously improve.
I see. So from what I understanding is that you're using intelligence to actually select the models that it will next try.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So automated machine learning, it seems like something we could just do right now. If you have a Azure Machine Learning Service account, just go in there, give it a CSV file, and then you're off to the races.
Absolutely.
All right, that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, what do you got?
So for people who want a little bit more control over how to train a model, we've integrated the UI of the Azure ML Studio with the new Azure Machine Learning Service, so that you can get the scalability benefits to be able to use any virtual machine in Azure in your compute cluster managed by Azure Machine Learning Service, but then also get the benefits of having the UI to drag and drop and having some kind of guardrailed experience to make sure that you don't do silly things.
I see.
And then a one-click deployment for your model once you're done.
So this is where I was confused before, because there was the Azure Machine Learning Service and there was the Azure Machine Learning Studio, and now basically they're all the same thing.
That's right.
Is it exactly the same studio that it was before, or there have been some changes or upgrades?
There've definitely been some changes and upgrades. Before, in Azure ML Studio, behind the scenes, under the covers, we had some proprietary algorithms that you couldn't access. And now it's all based on open source machine learning libraries based on Python. And you can even bring your own Python scripts now as well. And the back end has been upgraded to run on Azure Machine Learning Service, which eliminates some of the scalability challenges. Like before, you were limited how much data you could train your model with, for example.
Oh, yeah, which could be a problem.
That's gone now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now it's all one Azure Machine Learning experience, so to speak.
That's right.
That's awesome. Okay, so now we've talked about automated machine learning. We're talking about people that are getting started, let's just say like me. Automated machine learning. Then we're talking about the visual designer in Azure Machine Learning Studio. But let's just say if we're a data scientist, I feel like I want to use my notebooks.
Absolutely.
And I think that brings us to the next tip.
That's right. So the third tip, you can use Jupyter notebooks, you can use VS Code anywhere you like, of course, but now the question is, where should you use your notebooks?
Right.
And how do you keep track of them? So now we've added functionality in Azure Machine Learning Service. You can quickly create a Notebook VM and manage all of your notebooks within Azure Machine Learning Service. So you simply create, specify the type of VM you want to use. It'll quickly provision it, integrated with multi-factor authentication, so you don't even have to, send around IP addresses and passwords.
You have to scratch the
and all
password
that
into the bathroom stalls, like all of you are doing. Don't do that.
That's right. That's right. And so it becomes super easy to control your costs and see how much compute you're actually using in your different machine learning experiments, because it's all integrated in your AML workspace.
That's kind of cool. I feel like you're starting to bring everything home again, which is really nice. So
that's right.
When I'm doing like the VM stuff, it's me just hacking around and seeing if something will work, starting with something simple. But oftentimes, I feel like my projects start to get more involved. Like I'm writing a Python script to actually do data cleaning, and that's a separate process. Or I'm doing another Python script to changing, for example, let's just say I wanted to use a TF record structure. Once my data is cleaned, then I need to do that. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I do is multi-staged in machine learning, which I think brings us to the next tip you were telling us about that might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So with any machine learning experiment, there about 80 to 90% of the work is in data preparation, data understanding. There's a bunch of steps that you need to do in some order. Sometimes you need to do them in parallel.
Right.
Some things you might want to run on a Spark cluster. Some things you might want to run on a GPU cluster. And keeping track of all of that is really, really hard unless you create a machine learning pipeline.
I see.
And so you can use Azure Machine Learning to create these pipelines that put together in serial or in parallel a bunch of steps in a repeatable manner, such that you can trigger them either on a schedule to continuously retrain your model every day or every week, including all of those cleansing and preparation steps. Or you can even trigger it based on other changes. It can be anything. You can trigger the pipeline with a REST API, or even watching for data changes in, say, blob storage, and automatically kick off your model as well.
But this is different than Azure pipelines, or is it the same thing?
It is different insofar as it's specific to the machine learning concepts, because it has built-in things like, oh, well, which compute target do I want to use, for example, rather than running this on a build machine in your DevOps pipeline.
Because and that like makes a lot more sense to me, because the build machines and the DevOps pipelines are not going to have, for example, a GPU.
Or like 32 GPUs that you stitch together in an Azure machine learning compute cluster,
that makes sense,
and then run a distributed TensorFlow job on, for example.
So if I'm doing an Azure machine learning pipeline, it's for machine learning related things.
That's right.
Okay. So which brings me to the next question, and I think maybe you were telling me a little bit about this next tip. Once we've done all of the machine learning stuffs, and we have about 3 minutes, it needs to now go into production somehow.
Absolutely.
And so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So the tip number 5 here, you should use DevOps for machine learning, or what we call MLOps, to facilitate auditing and reproducing your machine learning experiments, so that when you say register a model that you're happy with, we'll have an audit trail of like what data was used to train that machine learning model, and fully repeat the process so that you can run it on a schedule, you can keep track of what's going on. So let me show you how we've integrated Azure Machine Learning with Azure DevOps to kind of close the loop here.
So that is actually Azure Pipelines, Azure DevOps. Now we're going into the dev side of things.
That's right. Okay. That's right. So, of course, a developer is going to build their application. They're going to have all their app code in GitHub repo. And you're going to go through the process of building your app and testing it and so on. Now, the exact same process is true for models. You're going to check in your Python scripts to cleanse and train your models, right? Then you're going to, of course, train your model. You're going to run that with those ML pipelines that I mentioned earlier. And that's like a step in your DevOps pipeline, if you will. Because, of course, you've got steps to build your app, and you've got steps to build your model. And where building the model is, in fact, a bunch of steps in your machine learning pipeline.
I see. So this is where I was getting confused, because like there's a pipeline here and a pipeline here. We have to separate pipelines in terms of, is it a machine learning process or is it a development process? Because you might want to, as a developer, kick off a new training process, but then let it do its thing and then maybe kick back when there's assets to be deployed.
That's exactly right.
Got it. Okay.
And so then, of course, you'll test these together. You'll test make sure that the model is good, high quality, and ready to roll out. But then you'll have some integration tests that you'll run. Does my application still work with the trained model? Because the data scientist might have changed the type of model used. Switch from scikit-learn to TensorFlow, for example. And then you don't want to roll out the new model, even though it's better quality maybe, if it has a new interface. Then you can stop that, change your code, and then integrate it.
That's cool.
Right? So then, of course, you'll deploy the model and then monitor it continuously. Azure Machine Learning makes it easy to collect telemetry so that you can see how the model is doing in production, and then use your production data to facilitate retraining the model as well.
So it's actually a full development real thing. So we have a question coming in, and I think it's an important one. Can I run TensorFlow models on Azure ML services?
Absolutely. You can use any machine learning framework that's Python. So whether it's PyTorch, TensorFlow, scikit-learn, doesn't matter.
Awesome. So if people want to get started, we have about 20 seconds. Where can they go to get started?
So if you go to the aka.ms/Azure Machine Learning Docs, the URL here, that's the easiest way to get started. You search for Azure Machine Learning. It'll take you to a bunch. We also have a bunch of samples in our GitHub repo as well.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really informative, and I know this stuff, and this has actually helped clarify a lot for me. Thank you so much. I believe Christina is out on the floor. We're going to take a quick. She's not ready? She's not ready. Okay, so we're going to come back right after these messages.